Hey guys, Justin here again. I've had a lot of people. Well, I guess about a week ago I got back in from my trip from California, and while I was on the way back, I happened to hit a deer coming back up through Missouri. It was getting a little bit late at night. I was kind of fighting sleep at that point, which you know, hindsight's a beautiful thing, right? It's easy to sit here and say that that is not the best time to be out driving. Of course, there's many truck stops along the road, and it probably would have been a better option for me to have stopped at one of those. But I wanted to stop at an actual rest stop so that I can make things happen a little bit more timely in the morning and get back out and on the road faster. Um, when I hit the deer, the worst thing about it was I was probably about 20 miles away from where I wanted to stop. So I was close. It wasn't going to be that much longer for me to actually get there. But what happened, I guess. It was, late enough at night to where it was dark out, but it was still early enough to where there was plenty of traffic on the road and you couldn't run your high beams to see any better anyway. So my visibility was really hurting on top of, maybe not being fully alert at that particular point in time. But yeah, I've had a lot of people kind of asking me what all's been damaged, how bad the damage is, and so on and so forth. And I think, all told, it hurts that I hit a deer because the car definitely shows the fact that it's been damaged, but it's not as bad as it could have been. Um, I mean, I saw a very brief flash of a yellow tinge of brown go flying up in the air, and so it must have been a pretty small deer. But I mean, I guess as far as damage that has happened to the car, in the video here that I'm going to be showing you guys, the hood is already kind of popped, so the gaps aren't quite as bad as it looks. But it is the hood definitely took the worst of the hit. Well, actually, I guess the radiator cap kind of took the worst of the hit. But yeah, the hood is definitely showing the damage. You'll also kind of notice that the my license plate bracket held up very well. The license plate ended up getting bent a little bit, but as far as the exterior stuff that's noticeable, I think that's kind of the major stuff. Um, so, quick walk around here, you can kind of see how badly the hood is wrinkled over on that side. Definitely not pretty anymore. There's a little bit of blood left over from the deer. Um, Front bumper nice and covered from bugs from the 2,000-mile trip, 2,000 plus. Paint's a little bit cracked up there because paint is not made to bend like that. From here you can already kind of see that the ARC intake chamber is bent. But with the ARC intake manifold being bent, I think we might be able to get back in there and fix that. I'm not sure, but I think we're going to take this opportunity, and my current plan is to make a cold side intake for the car now. All the research has been done by quite a few people in various places on exactly what the optimal length is to get max horsepower, max torque, all that kind of thing out of these. And I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of difference we see between the old setup, where for those of you that don't know the NBs, if you look in the front bumper, there's an actual scoop up toward the top right of the opening in the bumper, and that kind of gets guided back into that opening you see in the engine bay right underneath where the factory intake horn was. So that does serve some purpose, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to pull cooler air off of the cold side of the engine bay. The headlight's broken. Radiator diversion panel took a little bit of a hit there. So you could see there where the radiator cap has been replaced. That, I think, I was, it's bad enough that I hit a deer in Missouri 10 to 12 hours away from home, but it completely destroyed my radiator cap. So when I pulled into the truck stop that night and saw coolant running out from underneath the car, I was a little bit discouraged at that point. In the morning, I ended up actually popping the hood and figuring out that the cap was in multiple pieces sitting underneath the hood, and ended up having to take that off and massage it back into place close enough to where it would actually hold antifreeze back until I got to the nearest parts store so I could get a replacement for it. But for anybody that has a Miata radiator and a Miata, at least for the NBs, I know that if you get your factory radiator cap, it will fit that that neck that's on top of the radiator. So if you need a quick replacement, that'll get you by. Also, in addition to this, the bracing underneath the hood's been separated from the hood, and I think what I might end up doing here is, well, I'm going to get another hood in the meantime, but I think this one I might try and cut the bracing out from underneath of and see how bad that ends up being. I'm going to try and straighten the hood up, and we'll see how close we can get to the hood actually being straight and presentable. And you know, if I can get away with it being pretty close, then we might actually have a lighter hood. Factory Miata hoods are aluminum, so they're already pretty light. So much so that I don't see the point in going to a carbon fiber hood. If I can cut the bracing out from underneath of it, it'll be even closer to, you know, to the minimum weight that hood's going to be able to see. That tab on top of the radiator is kind of bent up in the air, which makes me fear that maybe the radiator support might have gotten pushed back a little bit. If we need to do a little bit of pulling there, we can, but I think that'll be quite obvious whenever we go to stick another hood on it, whether or not they got shoved back. Right now, the hood will still catch both latches, so I was able to get back down the road just fine. All told, I'm proud of the car for how well it took hitting a deer. You know, you hear plenty about Miatas not being worthwhile cars for taking any kind of damage, and I've tested mine a couple times and it's done okay. So yeah, I mean, I guess that should pretty well answer the question as to what damage has been done and how bad it is, and I think everything should be fairly easily fixable. The other thing I forgot to mention too, the radiator, the top of it right around the neck's dented down a little bit, and I've noticed some coolant residue sitting up there. I've wiped it up. I need to go back and check again to see if the coolant's shown back up again, because with that being dented down, I'm afraid it might have created a passage for coolant to kind of seep by around the neck, because that is not welded all the way around, and it, like I said, it might have created a passage. Yeah, hopefully that answers all your questions about what damage has been done to the car. I'm still driving it back and forth to work. It's getting me places, although it does not seem very happy. So we've got work to do, but it's still operational, and it may come back. I guess that's another question I got to pose to myself here is, at this point, with the damage the car has, it would probably be the smart thing for me to do to get another car. But this one's been through so much, I don't know if I could bring myself to set it aside and use it as a parts car. Actually, while I was out on the trip to California, I ended up turning over 154,000 miles. I think we're somewhere actually around 156 on the car right now. At 154, that was kind of a marker for me, because that I bought the car at 77,000, so that means I've turned over half of the miles on this car myself. And in addition to, you know, having all the body damage we have to fix, there's rust bubbles starting to show up around the quarter panels, the bottoms of them, and that is coming up through rock guards. So I'm not very optimistic about how easy that job's going to be, because I think once we get into it, it's going to be way worse than it appears. And then obviously we still have a little bit of pulling left to do on the quarter panel. So body-wise, the car needs a lot of work also. And then we've got the misfire issue that's currently happening with the car. We've done some testing. The compression test came back showing that the issues on the number 2 cylinder is definitely a misfire issue due to compression, and did a leak down on it. The air was coming back out the intake, so we've got some valve seats that are torn up. My logic for that is that from both tracking it and from interstate use, high RPM use, basically, we've worn the valve springs down, which is allowing the valves to bounce, which is tearing up the seats. So this thing's in need of an engine rebuild. I have sourced a couple of used engines and a transmission and a hood for this thing. I was hoping to take one of those used heads, slap it on top of the car, and call it good. Um, the front main seal has been leaking on this car, and I need to go back in and fix that, which, while the head was off, wouldn't be a major issue because the timing belt's already out of the way and you're going to have to retime the engine and everything anyway. So it would have been as simple as pulling the crank pulley. Well, actually, I think the crank pulley already has to come out of the way. So it would have been as, pulling the actual timing belt pulley out of the way and replacing that seal, which I'm going to do while I'm in there anyway. But I was doing an oil change on it the other night because we put, quite a few miles on it getting out to California and back. Maybe a few more than I'm usually comfortable with on an oil change. So I was down there changing the oil and was kind of looking around and, just checking everything out to, look for loose bolts or anything like that. And at the end of the clutch fork, a little bit of oil was hanging off of it. So I did a little bit of digging around because I just recently repaired an oil leak from the back side of the head on the from the cam plug, and so I was suspecting that may have been, maybe not my leak that I had before. And I was kind of looking around and realized, oh, there's no oil trails here. This is a bad thing, because that means there are only so many places that oil can be coming from and ending up collecting on the end of the clutch fork. So my next course of action that came up in my head was, okay, let's pull the slave cylinder and the clutch boot and feel inside of the transmission, see what it feels like in there. Because if the rear main seal is leaking, oil will collect on the end of the clutch fork. And sure enough, I pulled the slave cylinder and the boot out of the way, stuck my hand back inside the transmission, and it was damp. So my rear main seal is also leaking. So while the front main wouldn't have been a lot of extra work after swapping out the head, the rear main seal means I get to pull the transmission again. So at this point, I'm just kind of considering, maybe I should just run it as is until I get a chance to fully rebuild one of these other engines. I don't know. We've got a lot of work ahead in order to save this car. So at the very least, I'm thinking I'm going to be off of the track for quite a while. Like I said, I've got some thinking to do on whether or not I want to try and save this car, if I want to run another chassis. Because, with this car being up where it's at in mileage, I'm sure it's getting twisted and all that sort of nice stuff that comes along with high mileage also. So maybe it would be the humane thing to do to retire this car at this point, but I've been through so much with it. It's going to be hard to do. But yeah, that's kind of the current state of the car. So that being said, hopefully that kind of fills you guys in on where we're at. But I appreciate you stopping by again, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks. Bye.